Let's start with the practice on the first little tab, the pink one, page 16. It's a very nice practice, blessing of speech. So maybe just meditate on what I say, I'll meditate on the words. And then the mantras, you've got to learn to say these, blessing the speech with the Sanskrit syllable, basically, the Sanskrit alphabet, basically, the vowels and the consonant, and then the dependent arising mantra. You look used to it, but just, okay, first little prayer. I take refuge in the three jewels, may I become a Buddha to benefit all. I take refuge in the three jewels, may I become a Buddha to benefit all. I take refuge in the three jewels, may I become a Buddha to benefit all. It says I arise as a deity, but it's only if you've had an initiation, otherwise just don't. So just think, on my tongue, the syllable R transforms into a moon disk. On top of that appears a white Om, surrounded by the white vowels. They call it white Ali, the Sanskrit vowels, circling clockwise. So on your tongue is a moon disk, and on this is a syllable, an Om, standing upright. And then surrounding it, imagine all these mantras. Just think of it, think that. Clockwise is the white vowels, counterclockwise is the red consonants, and then again the blue dependent rising mantra, clockwise. Imagine all that on your tongue. And now imagine light beams radiate out from all these syllables and all the garland of mantras. All the 10 directions, all the energy goes out, the light goes out and hooks the blessings and the power of both mundane and supramundane speech. That means, speech that can benefit all levels. In the form of the three mantras, these three, and the sublime 7 royal precious symbols, never mind if you don't know them, and indeed the 8 auspicious signs, you don't know them either. So this, Lama Zopa says this includes the power of speech from beyond samsara of the Buddhas, the Arya Bodhisattvas, those living in the three pure bhumis and the Arhants, as well as the power of speech of those who are engaged in the path, and also those sages who have achieved the power of words, who have actualized the words of truth, and have great power in their speech. Due to the power of abiding in silence, of living in the morality of abstaining from the negative karma of speech, the words of those sages have so much power. Whatever they pray, it brings success. All the blessing powers of the holy speech from those who are beyond samsara and those who are not beyond are hooked, you think this now, all this pure energy is hooked in the aspect of these three mantras, all these things, and these are then absorbed into your tongue. Think that the whole sky is filled with these, together with the mantras, and they are absorbed into the mantras on your tongue. Think like that. And now, while visualizing this, recite. If you want to do, or just listen, the whole point is to recite. Now we recite the vowels. Om, a, I, u, ri, li, I, o, a, so, ha. Om, a, I, u, ri, li, I, o, a, so, ha. Om, a, I, u, ri, li, I, o, a, so, ha. So we should have been imagining that the nectar flows down from the mantra and fills the entire body, completely purifying all the negative karma connected with your body. And now as we do the next one, the red, from the consonants, the red nectar beams flow down from the mantra and fill your entire body, purifying all your negative karma connected with your speech. Om ka ka na, cha ja na, ta da na, ta da na, pa ba ma, yada lava, sha sa soha. Om a ka ga na, cha ja na, pa da na, ta da na, pa ba ma, Yada lava, shasha, sahaksha, soha. Om ka ka ga gana, cha 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 jana, ta ta da dana, ta ta da dana, pa pa ba ba ma, yada lava, shasha, sahaksha, soha. And now as we say the pen-related half mantra, blue nectar comes down from it and fills your entire body, particularly all negative karma collected by your mind. Om yedama he tu prabhava he tun teshan patakato ivadat teshan sayon niroda evam vadi maha samanaya soha. Om yedama he tu prabhava he tun teshan patakato ivadat teshan sayon niroda evam vadi maha samanaya soha. Om yedama he tu prabhava he tun teshan patakato ivadat teshan sayon niroda evam vadi maha samanaya soha. So now you think, imagine, this dependent arising mantra, the consonants, the vowels, the om and the moon disc, each dissolve into the other, one by one. Now the moon disc transforms into an R, which turns into pink-coloured nectar and dissolves into your tongue and becomes indestructible. So now the tongue becomes indestructible, Vajra nature. Nothing can harm, take away or destroy the power of mantra. Such as black food. They talk about how onion and meat and things are black food. But then now have very strong faith that all the power and the blessings of the speech of all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, the sages, the yogis and so on, that enter your speech, and that your speech is perfected. Think I have perfected my speech. The minute the sentient beings hear your speech, it pacifies their emotional and disturbing thoughts, and whatever you say gets actualized. And do what you say. By thinking in this way, the power of your speech becomes marvelous, and whatever you recite is multiplied by millions of times. Your speech will not become like gossip. By the power of the mantras, the power of your speech will not be snatched by eating. Leave a note on that later. Some lamas have explained this practice. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. There's a bunch more, but we won't do that. So now we go to refuge. I'm going to do the refuge prayer, which expresses also bodhicitta. Do the 7-yin prayer and make a mandala offering. They call these the preliminary practices. It's like preparing you to do your practice of visualizing the Buddha and so on and so forth. We won't be doing this. Sangye chadang soke chomnam la jancho padu dagni kyab suchi dagi jinso gipe sonam ki drola penche sangye dropasho sangye chadang soke chomnam la jancho padu dagni kyab suchi dagi jinso gipe sonam ki drola penche sangye dropasho Sangye charan soke chognam la jancho padu dagni kyab suchi dagi jinso gipe sonam ki drola penche sangye dropasho. Kosum gupe gone chakselo Nasham yitrul churchin malubul Togmene sagdik trong tam cheshar Kepage wanam la jeiran Korwa matong bardulek jugne Drola cheki kolo korwadan Dag jen genam jang tub chen ponyo. Can you imagine making all these marvelous offerings to the Buddha? Saji paki jog shing meto Chamri rabling shi ni degen padi sange jing du mig te orwagi trokun nam dag jing la chapasho. Imagine Buddha happily listening out. Edam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Make sure body is nice and upright. Jaw relaxed, lips apart, tip of the tongue behind the top teeth. Breathing through your nose. Eyes looking down beneath your eyelids, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So we can do the 9-round breathing again, 2 sets at your own pace. So remember, we're doing 3 sets of the first. And when you breathe in this blissful light of all the goodness energy of the world or the universe, if you like, the Buddha's energy, whatever you like, in through the left nostril, comes down into your body and encircles it, if you like, going all the way down, and imagine then driving out, up through your right nostril, all your attachment energy, like yucky smoke. This is the bottomless pit of dissatisfaction, the neediness of expectation, possessiveness, all of this under function, the distorting of exaggeration of things, the fantasizing, all the thinking about it, the obsessiveness. All of this is a function of attachment. That's what it does, multifaceted. Imagine all of this, every atom of it, leaving through our right nostril, like filthy smoke, disappearing into space. 3 times you do that. Then we breathe in blissful radiant light through the right nostril, goes all the way down in, then drives out all the yucky smoke, and this time all the aversion, which again is multifaceted. It's the millisecond attachment doesn't get what it wants. Aversion is what arises. That second, that millisecond. They go utterly together. And that can manifest as just annoyance, irritation, slight distress, depression, externalized anger, rage, is again multifaceted. These 2 dominate our minds. This is the thing. There's no real comprehension of these in the way Buddha does in the Western world, called many different names for all this stuff. But these are the 2 fundamental. And then all the others will say, then there's arrogance and these other things that come out of this. These 2 are massive. Attachment, aversion, and everybody has them. If you're depressed, when you get violence, or it's aversion, same problem, same depression. So attachment doesn't get it on. We'll talk about this more later. So there's the blissful lighting through the left and attachment out through the right. Blissful lighting through the right, attachment, anger out through the left. And then the third 2, in through both and out through both, and ignorance, indifference, uncaring, heavy sickness, ignorance, narrow-mindedness. Very deep, complete breath. And again, don't force, not loud, not force, not loud. Okay. Now let's use our breath as our focal point to develop concentration. Remembering the two main obstacles in the mind that prevent us going to subtle levels with focus is these deep tendencies, which are linked to the delusions completely. Over excitement, which is linked to attachment. And then there's another one of sort of like sinking, as they call it, or it's like dullness, they say. And you can see emotionally in daily life, it's kind of like depression in a way. Just talking, linking it to the emotions in it. Attachment mind is the one that's always excited and thinking of all these things and all excited and wanting this and wanting that. It can be angry mind too, can't it? All the time, never stopping, never still. Overexcited, overactive. That's the one extreme problem. Then the other one is the other extreme of this thinking, and that can often be mistaken for concentration. You can feel very nice. So this is not the point here. The point is not to feel nice. The point of this meditation is not to relax. It demands discipline actually and great alertness. The goal is to focus the mind, keep it totally sharp. And so what you're doing in the meditation is adjusting between the overexcitement and the dullness. If it's dull, you bring it back to the sharp. If it's overexcited, you calm it down. So there's always got to be this alertness there. So your attention, that's one part of your mind, it's looking at the breath, paying attention is one part of your mind. Like I said, don't think, I'm looking at the breath. Your attention is. Then there's other part, as holiness calls, like the policeman, vigilance, alertness, another part of your mind. Just think that. That's adjusting. As soon as attention wanders off, alertness brings it back to the breath. So you need to be conscious the whole time, not just spacing out. If you want to relax, just lie down. That's easy. This is not relaxing. So just watch. Keep full breath all the way in, all the way out, not loud. And the focal point, the sensation. sometimes feeling more easy, but actually more difficult, because it's an internal object. The breath is external. And that's to focus on the mind itself. So again, have a feeling there's a tension, and what it's watching is simply whatever arises in the mind. You've got to stay very alert with it. Don't think about it, don't speculate, don't discuss, don't converse, don't make decisions about what's going on. Simply observe. The mind is a name we give to whatever arises experientially, mentally, and through the senses. So it's very hard with the sensory because we're so confused with the body. So one example, one good, a good type of exercise to do. There's not much sound around now. If there's a sound, if a bird or a car, the mind, what happens is the ear consciousness hears it, doesn't it? And then a millisecond later we've labelled it bird, car. And then of course we have an opinion about it. Usually we think birds are nice and cars are not. So an attachment arises and aversion arises. The bird appears nice, the car appears awful. And then that's the drama that happens. And that's why we get exhausted by the end of the day. Because our mind, what happens is our awareness is here. You can say it's sitting here in our body. And the car's out there, and the sound wafts in the wind. And then it's like our mind is magnetized to it. It runs like a magnet. And then has all this drama about it. It's this, it's that, it shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be that, why this, why that. This is why we get exhausted. And the trouble is, we assume that because things happen, we must have an opinion about it. We spend our lives having opinions. We think it's our human right and duty to have an opinion about everything. But it's astonishing to think that you don't need to. You don't need to. You let it be. Obviously, sometimes it's most appropriate. Like if the car is close, should I run across the road? You better have an opinion. But all the other stuff of outside world, people's suffering, the nonsense and the violence and the dramas and all the good and the bad and the beauty and the ugly, we're always having opinions. This is what samsara is. And that's our mind rushing out to these things, dumping our junk all over it. Well, the fact is, we don't need to have an opinion. It's miraculous to think this. You keep your mind to yourself. So you keep your mind in your body, if you like. So you don't rush out to the sound. You let the sound be there. In this way, when you're driving the car, you literally stay peaceful. Alert, sharp, intelligent, making decisions, but your mind is peaceful. We get thrown by everything, rushed here, and we blame everything. We don't have any control over our mind. Our mind runs like a child, like a bird, to everything that arises. This is what we have. One of the major things we have to train ourselves to not do. And this is what keeps our mind steady and sharp. It's wonderful. So the breath is good enough for that. But here, as I was discussing, but here let's just watch the mind now. Whatever arises in the mind, whether it's the sensory experience, think of the body, but there's your sensory awareness as well. Then there's your mental consciousness, thoughts. Attention, just to pay attention. That's the 5 quality there. 7 minutes. Just watch the breath and keep alert, have the vigilance there, and space out. Don't forget what you're doing. Just watch the mind. time it was. So we think it's 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Thoughts will come into our mind, all these thoughts, every thought, very bit of effort. Okay. Really hard work. These marvelous seeds we've planted to lighten these seeds. And make the aspiration that we're going to nourish these seeds with our continued effort, morality, our practice,
and that they all grow, have confidence, and this is not wasted time. Everything we do, the effort we make, is like practice. This is practice. Practice means you keep doing it, and eventually it makes perfect. And then practice makes perfect. Confidence and patience. So we think of our breakfast differently. Think of it as empty, no inherent nature. Think of it as blissful nectar, blessed with the energy of all the holy beings, Om Ahom, Om Ahom, Om Ahom. And think of it as huge. And then we imagine, just, imagine offering it. Things are all good, all the Buddhas, all the holy beings, and all the sufferings and beings pervading space. And we delightedly imagine offering it to them, and when we see them all experiencing the joy of receiving it. Lama Sangye, Lama Che, Dejin Lama Gedun Che, Kungi Je Pro Lama Che, Lama Nam La Che, Pa Bu. And we happen to eat ourselves with the wish to be healthy so we can continue on the path, benefit others, help us develop ourselves to benefit others. That's the reason we